How many Russians have I fallen in love with since I worked at the International Theater Institute? It's probably too many to count. But one of the first ones that I met and remained a sort of touchstone in a way was Mikhail Tsaryov, because he was the head of the Soviet delegation when they came to New York for the Congress. And in that sense, he was the first official ITI person from Russia that I really met. And he stayed. I knew him through a period of about 15 years because he was the executive committee representative from Moscow, and I was, as of '71, the same from New York. But it was just his sense of being. He was a very clear Soviet representative, but he also was a wonderful older actor, and he was one of the people that showed the power of theater to climb through national differences and just get down to getting the work done. And he was completely official when it needed to be, but he was an extraordinary friend and human being when he was talking about theater. And he was very clear. I mean, it was a pleasure, like Margaret Thatcher said about Gorbachev, we can do business together. And Mikhail, even though he was very solid on one side and I was pretty solid on the other, we didn't let it get in the way of getting the work done, because theater was going to solve everything anyway. And I remember he was quite official, and he was not overly forthcoming. I mean, he did not take stage and stuff, but one of the executive committee meetings in Paris coincided with his 80th birthday. So the French woman that was head of ITI and I planned a surprise, and at the break in the morning meeting I said, there is a young person here who has an important birthday, and we need to stop and pay attention to it. And Gabrielle brought in a tray full of champagne glasses and a couple of bottles, and Tsarev burst into tears. I mean, he was, it didn't show too much, but he was just completely bouleversé. And that's where his heart, that's where his identity rested, really, was in his affection for theater people and his sentimentality, and that's why he said theater people know better how to make peace than anyone else.
Did you ever see him perform?
No,
really?
Unfortunately.
You just knew him?
The only time I saw him perform was the last plenary session at the Congress in New York, which took place the same week as the Six-Day War in the Middle East. And on the Friday of that week, about 60 or 70 of us went over to the United Nations to watch the emergency General Assembly. And the next morning, Tsarev got up in the closing session of the Congress and said, all week we have been discussing and arguing and deciding about theater in the world, and yesterday we went over to watch the diplomats deal with the Middle East, and we watched for an hour or so. And he paused like an old actor and said, we are the diplomats. We meet at what could be the end of the world, but we make peace. We are the diplomats. And so it got a huge laugh, but it was true.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was one of the things that I was going to do the Congress and mop up afterwards, and then I was going to go do some production work, and I never left ITI because of that week. Because it was doing something that the world needed, one artist at a time, and Tsarev was certainly one of those.